I need to get rid of some books.
Hello? Hello? Can anybody hear my voice? Anybody out there? Anybody hears me, please respond.
Today we are doing another Try a Chapter Unhaul. I've done this twice before and I'm pretty sure this is what works best for me. I'm pretty incapable of unhauling books without at least giving them like a tiny baby try because I'm a child and it feels like the books will be mad at me if I don't at least give them that tiny attempt. However, I am not in fact a child. I just turned in May, and I don't gravitate towards YA books anymore. So what we have here are 20 YA books that I'm going to try the first chapter of today. Actually, it's 19 YA books, but that was an unsatisfying number. So I threw one adult book in here just to make it an even 20. Most of these are fantasy, but there's also 2 horror, 3 general fiction, 1 romance, and 1 mystery thriller in the mix. Oh, and 1 sci-fi, but it's part of a duology. So if I try the chapter and then I decide I don't like it, I get to get rid of 2 books. I own more YA books than this, but for the sake of my sanity today, I'm not including any classics, most series, although there are 1 or 2 things I think that are the start of a series. Anything I've already included in a different Try a Chapter Unhaul, obviously, or anything that's above a 4 stars on Goodreads. So anything you see here today will be between 3.44 and 3.97 stars. I'm moving later this year and I want to pare down my books as much as is possible. Nothing crazy, just whatever amount feels comfortable to me. So my goal is to get rid of half of these 20 books. If I can get rid of 10 books by the end of this video, I will be happy. I'm gonna do them in groups of 4 and then I'll come back and discuss each group of 4 with you. So as long as we can try to get rid of 2 books out of every group of 4, we'll be able to stay on track. Okay, are you ready? 1, 2, 3, break. I'm gonna start over here, because why not? So the first 4 books that we are testing out are Bring Me Your Midnight by Rachel Griffin, Down Comes the Night by Allison Saft, Voice of the Ocean by Kelsey Mpichike, and A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. Okay, wish me luck. Okay, we are off to a great start. I am unhauling 3 books and only keeping 1, I think. Let's start with Bring Me Your Midnight by Rachel Griffin. I am getting rid of this book. One of the complaints I have here is going to be the complaint that probably is going to ring true through a lot of these books, and that is that it read so young. I know that these are YA books. Some of them come off more YA than others, and this is one that came off very young. This is about a 19-year-old named Tana Fairchild. She's a witch and she lives on this little island called the Witchery, which is not very creative at all. There's the Witchery and the mainland. Apparently the 2 used to be fighting, but there's like a truce between them now, and to solidify the truce, Tana is promised to the son of the mayor on the mainland. And all the mainland people know magic, obviously. Tana's coven has appeased those who fear their power for years by releasing most of their magic into the ocean during the full moon. But when Tana misses the midnight ritual, a fatal mistake, there is no one she can turn to help until she meets Wolf. And Wolf is from a coven that practices dark magic. This simply did not have anything in the first 11 pages that I cared about. And it reads, like I said, so young. Tana and her best friend work at her mom's tea shop, and there's a lot of talk of needing to seem not dangerous for the common folk, for the people without magic. You need to always present magic as something that's helpful and convenient, but not dangerous, not a threat. And I just don't think I have an interest in reading about a 19-year-old. Wait, am I wrong? Is she 16? Someone in this stack was 19 and someone was 16, and I don't actually remember who was who at this point. She's either 16 or 19. I have no interest in reading about her and her magic and her life in her tea shop. So thank you for your service. I appreciate you being here. I release you. I will find you a better home with someone who loves you better. Thank you. Goodbye. Next we have Down Comes the Night by Allison Saft. I actually have 3 Allison Saft books in these piles to try a chapter of today. This one is about Ren Sutherland, who is kind of another witch. She has magic. They never call her a witch, but these are magical people. The very first line on the inside cover says, "He saw the darkness in her magic. She saw the magic in his darkness." And that almost made me say no immediately. That is way too cheesy. I don't want to read that, but I'm conflicted on this one. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, but I need you to tell me whether I should keep this book or get rid of it. Ren Sutherland's reckless use of magic has cost her everything. She's been dismissed from the Queen's Guard and separated from her best friend, the girl she loves. So when a letter arrives from a reclusive lord asking Ren to come to his estate, Colwick Hall, to cure his servant of a mysterious illness, she seizes her chance to redeem herself. I didn't get to any of that in the first chapter. Obviously, it was only the first 14 pages. What I did get to was Ren and her best friend slash the girl that she's in love with, Una, and they're in the military and they're looking for the enemy. And what they find is this young boy who's like 10 years old, and they have no evidence against him, but they caught him and he broke his wrist in the meantime. His bones came out of his skin. And Ren keeps talking about how she has this cursed empathy. She has too much empathy and it's not good. And if she could only dilute her empathy, if she could get rid of it, she'd be more respected in the military. So she really wants to heal this boy that they caught, even though they think that he's an enemy boy. And her empathy gets the best of her and she lets him go, and then he fucking double crosses her, manipulates the situation, and he locks her up and then runs away. None of what I've said to you made me want to keep the book and continue. What makes me interested in potentially keeping the book is the description of her magic. Una is a healer. She has magic healing powers. And when she heals this boy's broken wrist, it says she called on her magic, a second network of veins, the fola, running silver and glimmering down the length of her arm. Her healing was far from miraculous, only a biological wonder. I am interested in the book looking at magic as a kind of science. It's happening because she has this extra series of veins. It's not just nondescript magic that comes out of like her soul. So that's interesting to me. Please let me know if I should keep this book or I should get rid of it, because right now I am perplexed. If I get rid of this, it means I've gotten rid of all 4 of the books in this pile, which would be crazy. Voice of the Ocean by Kelsey and Peachake. I bought this book because Kelsey is a YouTuber and she plays The Sims. And so I was like, okay, yeah, support for YouTubers. This book is bad. This is it. I was committed to finishing the entire first chapter, even though I wanted to stop for this one on page 3. I don't know if it's because it's her debut novel or because she just is not a good writer, but the writing does come across as something you would read like in a high school English class. Even from chapter 1, the world building doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. It's just this one, I have so little to say because most of what I want to say is just not good book. So Voice of the Ocean, thank you for being here. Thank you for existing with me for a little bit. I'm gonna find you a better home, or maybe a little free library somewhere. Lastly, we have A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. I went back and forth on this a little bit. I read, what the was it called? Juniper and Thorn. I read Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed and fucking hated it. There are so few books I have disliked as much as Juniper and Thorn by this author. This is another one that has promise. If enough people tell me in the comments that I should keep this book and should give it a try, I will change my mind and I'll keep it. But it felt boring. The story seemed cool. It's about this young woman who's in college and she gets the chance to redesign a famous author's house after he dies. And it's an author she's obsessed with because she believes these fairy tales that he wrote. The story seems promising. Everything else just feels kind of boring, and I looked on Goodreads to see what people hated about it, and the majority of people who didn't like the book said that it's boring and it stays boring. So I can understand if the first few chapters are slow going, but if this book stays boring throughout the whole thing, I cannot do it. Oh, The Voice of the Ocean is a Little Mermaid retelling. That's it. So those are the first 4. I am definitely getting rid of 2. I'm letting you guys decide what I do with these other 2. So Down Comes the Night by Alison Saft, A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. Let me know what I should do about these books, please. Thank you. The next 4 books will be Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen, A Fragile Enchantment, also by Alison Saft, Nightweaver by R.M. Gray, and Together We Burn by Isabella Banez. So I'll see you on the other side. We are still on track because out of those 4, I am again getting rid of 2. Again? What did I do last time? Okay, last time was getting rid of 2 and questioning 2. Firmly keeping 2 and firmly getting rid of 2 this time. First, our Infinite Fates by Laura Steven. I am keeping this. I cannot resist time. This is about a woman named Evelyn who keeps going through this reincarnation pattern. She lives each of her lives only to be killed by this entity before she turns 18. And she has no idea why he keeps coming back to kill her, why he hates her so much, but they do it again and again and again. And each chapter has a year and a place. So that's El Salvador 2004, we're 2022 in Wales. We go to the US in 1862. We're all over the world, all in these different time periods and different lives that Evelyn is living through, trying not to die. And that's basically all I know so far. I cannot resist time. This is staying with me. A Fragile Enchantment by Allison Saft is going. This is about a woman named Neve who has magic in her blood that lets her stitch emotions and memories into fabric. And somehow that's also eventually going to kill her. This is kind of like Magic Taylor Bridgerton. She's from a more poor area and she gets hired to tailor all of the clothing for the crown prince's wedding. And I just don't care. I simply do not care. I know that that is going to be too much of a cozy story for me. It doesn't even talk about a whole lot of conflict on the inside flap. Neve and the crown prince grow closer. An unlikely friendship blossoms into something more, until an anonymous gossip columnist starts buzzing about their chemistry, promising to leave them alone only if Neve helps to uncover the royal family secrets. I do not care. Goodbye, thank you for your service. Nightweaver by R.M. Gray, I am keeping. R.M. Gray took inspiration from Pirates of the Caribbean for this book, and it's a story about Nightweavers, cursed beings with unchecked power who claimed the continents for their own 600 years ago. So the people, all the humans on the continents, they went to the sea. Basically every human is now a pirate. After an epic battle at sea against Nightweavers, Aster and her family are thrust into a new life on land where she's going to meet a Nightweaver who's actually a good guy somehow, and he's gonna help take care of her family, and she's going to help try to defeat monsters worse than Nightweavers. Based on Pirates of the Caribbean, I do love a pirate situation, so this is staying with me. Together We Burn by Isabella Banez is about a family in some fantastical version of Spain, and the women in the family are all flamenco dancers, famous flamenco dancers, and the men in the family are all dragonadores. They're basically like bullfighters, but instead of bulls, it's dragons. So dragons are looked at as pests and threats, and so people capture the dragons, clip their wings, tie them up, and then kill them in front of a crowd. Zarella is a flamenco dancer who has to become a dragonador after dragons attacked her family's arena. She has to figure out who's sabotaging her family and her arena, whatever it is. I'm not interested. It wasn't super interesting to me. Also, I was rooting for the dragons. I know that this book is probably going to wind up with her realizing that dragons are actually good and we can be friends with the dragons. But I don't want to go through half the book with us trying to kill a bunch of dragons first. That's not what is deterring me. That's just me being nitpicky. What is deterring me is that I am not interested at all. I was not interested in the first chapter. It didn't catch me. I was a little bored, honestly. Not a little. I was more than a little bored. So, Fragile Enchantment and Together We Burn are leaving us. The next 4 books that I'm going to do are A Far Wilder Magic by Allison Saft, the last of the 3 Allison Saft books I have. The Girl from Everywhere by Heidi Heileg. Princess of Souls by Alexandra Christo, which has the ugliest sprayed edges I've ever seen. And The Girls by Emma Klein, which is the one on here that's not a YA. But every time I look at my shelves, I see this book and I hate it and I don't want to see it anymore. I am so convinced for no reason at all that I will not like this book. I think it's about the Manson murders, or like it's a fictionalized version of the Manson murders. I genuinely have no idea, but we'll see when I get to it. Meow, hi. Okay, we're doing a surprisingly good job so far. Out of those 4, again, I'm keeping 2 and getting rid of 2. We're exactly on course. Come here, come say hi. Oh, she's so sleepy. So first up, A Far Wilder Magic by Alison Saft, I am keeping. This is about a woman named Margaret who has lost all the members of her family in different ways. Her brother died, her father left the family, and her mother leaves the country for months at a time to do research on alchemy. I think it's probably going to be because she thinks she can bring the brother back to life. And then Margaret spots something called a hala, which is the last mythological creature known to exist. And there's a tradition every autumn where she lives where if someone sees the hala, it starts a hunt. Everyone starts hunting for the hala, and if you are the one who finds it, you earn fame and riches and unlock an ancient magical secret. And Margaret wants to find the hala because she thinks that it's the last thing that her mom needs to complete her research so that her mom will stop leaving her. This was very well written, and after reading the first chapter, I didn't want to stop reading it, which I have not felt for any of the other books. So obviously I'm keeping this one. The Girl from Everywhere by Heidi Heilig, I'm also keeping. I had forgotten completely what this was. And it turns out that this is time in like the extreme. There's a girl named Nyx and she's 16? There's a 16-year-old named Nyx and she lives on a ship with her father that her father captains. And her father somehow has the ability to steer the ship through space and time. So we open up in the 1700s in India and they have this map that's about to take them to like 1800s New York and then 2016 New York and then 1800s Honolulu. And then as long as they have a map of a place from the time period, they can sail their ship right to that time and place. Even if it's not real, the land from 1001 Nights, a mythic version of Africa, you can go to fake places. I could go visit Tarzan as long as I had a map to Tarzan's island, even if it is not real. So obviously I'm not getting rid of the time and space traveling time ship book. For the two I am getting rid of. First, The Princess of Souls by Alexander Christo. I think this is part of an interconnected standalone type thing. I read To Kill a Kingdom by the same author years ago and I remember liking it, but also I was just getting back into reading. So who's to say if I would actually like it now still? This is about a teenager named Celestra who is heir to a powerful magic, and it kind of seems like she's a mixture between one of the Fates, Medusa, and like a tiny little bit of King Midas, because she has these powers but she has to wear gloves so that she doesn't kill people when she takes off the gloves if she touches someone. So maybe like half King Midas, half Elsa from Frozen. Celestra and her mom live in the castle and they work for the evil king against their wishes. Every year a bunch of people come and they line up in the castle for predictions of their death. And her mom is very powerful and becoming evil, I think. I think using her power makes her more evil throughout the years, and she can touch people and tell when they're gonna die. And so she can tell these people when they're gonna die and how, and they have 2 weeks to outrun their fate and their death, or else their soul gets to be claimed by the king who eats it and he's immortal. And I'm not keeping this. It was very, very YA. This is another one where it reads too young, and so I can't do it. I probably would have loved this 10 years ago, but now it's just not happening for me. And finally, thank the Lord, The Girls by Emma Cline I can officially get rid of. It is in fact about the Manson murders, like a fictionalized version, but even the first chapter and a half, I read more than a chapter just to be sure. Even the first chapter and a half, I was so bored. And also I don't really have any interest in true crime or true crime related things. I don't want to read fictionalized Manson murder books. And like I said, it was boring. I'm not gonna keep a boring book. So for that reason, The Girls is also leaving. We are staying on course so well, but I'm nervous about the rest of these. So the next 4 that we're gonna be trying out are A Latsoe by Darcy Little Badger, Wilder Girls by Rory Power, They Bloom at Night by Trang Ton Tran, and Night Swimming by Erin Starmer. I am unfortunately no longer doing well because I am keeping all 4 of these books. So A Latsoe by Darcy Little Badger is about an indigenous girl who lives in a small town called Willoughby, somewhere in America, but it's a slightly alternate version of America where all of these magical realism type things exist and they're out in the open and everyone knows they exist. A Latsoe, the main character, has a ghost dog that everyone knows about. It's just very normal for her to have a ghost dog, and he runs around and sometimes sometimes he's invisible, and then sometimes he comes into visual reality. The inside flap says that her cousin gets murdered and that she and her ghost dog are gonna figure out how it goes. That makes it sound a lot more YA than it feels. It does not feel nearly as young as everything else, so I'm keeping a Lasso away. Wilder Girls by Rory Power, I am absolutely keeping because it feels like a mix between Yellow Jackets and Annihilation. I haven't seen Yellow Jackets, but I hear about it all the time. I know what it's about. I have seen Annihilation. I have read Annihilation. I love Annihilation in all forms. Wilder Girls is about this big group of girls who live in what I believe is a boarding school, and then something happens called the Tox, and it's Annihilation style. It's this thing that takes over and mutates everything. So some of the girls are mutated. There's a girl who's growing scales out of her fingers. Our main girl, what's your name? Our main girl, Hetty, she lost one of her eyes because she got a tox infection, and so it just closed shut, and now there are things growing underneath it. I'm excited for this, and I'm keeping it, obviously. They Bloom at Night is another one that's kind of Annihilation-y. There was a hurricane in Louisiana, and it left the town of Mercy overtaken by a strange red algae bloom. And the algae bloom has caused the wildlife to mutate. Feels kind of similar. And this girl Noon and her mother have to survive. And that's all I know so far. We've already stumbled upon one dead body. It was not nearly as gruesome as I wanted it to be, but I hold hope for the rest of the book. And then we have Night Swimming by Erin Starmer. This one I'm confused about, but I like it and I want it to keep going. This is a really nostalgic little book about a few high school graduates and the summer after graduation before they all go to college. And so far it's just about their life after high school and their nostalgia that's already creeping in, and their melancholy, you know, the feeling of hanging out with your friends one last time before everything changes, that kind of shit. But according to the inside flap, there's gonna be some magical realism stuff going on. We will get into speculative shit. I just don't understand how that's gonna come around. Things finally change when they learn about a natural pool hidden deep in the woods. Once they get there, they realize that this place has a curious hold on them and something very strange is happening, ... And I wanna know what that strange happening is. So unfortunately, that means that I'm keeping all 4 of these books, which means that right now I'm not doing as well as I wanted to be. Unless you guys tell me to get rid of both A Study in Drowning and Down Comes the Night. If you think I should get rid of both of those, then we're even right now. So I guess I won't know until I start reading the comments. The final stack of books that we are doing today. First is The Next Together by Lauren James. Then there's Where the World Ends by Geraldine McCaughren. Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessl. And The Other Side of the Sky by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. And if I choose to give this one up, it means I'm also giving this one up because it's a duology. So let's see how this goes. Okay, it's been a few hours. I have read the last 4 books' first chapters. I'm keeping one of the books, definitely, and that is Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessl. And not only that, I want to read this immediately. I want to read this like tonight. This is about a group of friends who graduated high school a year ago, and they haven't talked since then because one of the girls, the main girl that we're following, her boyfriend died in some mysterious accident that we haven't heard about yet, and she got depressed and she became isolated. She hasn't talked to any of her friends. Now, a year later, she meets back up with them. They have a fun night out, and then a stranger knocks on their door and he goes, "Hey, guess what? All of you guys are dead, or at least almost dead. You're in this weird purgatory place called the Neverworld Wake, and by the end of the night, you all have to decide which one of you gets to survive." And until then, time keeps looping and looping and looping, and they play the same day over and over again. It's like Groundhog Day kind of time with death involved. And I want to read it now. There are 2 that I'm absolutely getting rid of. The first is Where the World Ends by Geraldine McCaughren. This is about a group of boys in this, I want to say the 1700s, and they're partaking in their village's ritual, which is that every year the young boys go to this island a few miles off of the mainland, and they gather fish and birds and supplies to feed the rest of the village. And it's supposed to turn boys into men, that kind of shtick. And they're supposed to be there for 1 to 3 weeks, but then no one shows back up to get them. No one comes back to claim these boys. And so they think they've just been abandoned there for some reason. They don't know why. It seems like somewhat of a Lord of the Flies situation. This turns out to be a middle grade book. And I simply don't have room in my life for middle grade books. I'm sure this is wonderful. It's written well. It seems fairly literary, but middle grade is not what I'm going for at all right now. So Where the World Ends will be leaving my house. Thank you for your service. Also, also leaving my house is The Next Together by Lauren James, which I had shelved in romance, but it probably should be in sci-fi. It's another book about reincarnation and people finding each other in every lifetime, except there's some kind of more sci-fi-ish tone to it that I haven't really figured out by just the first chapter. It's told in parallel time streams through a mixture of prose, diary entries, letters, original historical documents, news reports, and internet articles, and spanning the siege of Carlisle, various wars, and the near future of 2019 and 2039. Sweeping story of time travel, fate, and the power of first love. Ordinarily, this would be something that I would vibe with. However, it felt very, very 2006. The writing felt very early aughts. There's a lot of meme talk, like memes, like internet memes, and it dates the book really specifically. And the type of humor that was going on through it is like cringy humor, to say the least. But thank you for your service. And finally, I have another book, or I guess set of books, that I need your help with. My initial thought was that I was going to be unhauling The Other Side of the Sky, but by the time that I got to the end of the first 20-page chapter, I was intrigued and I wanted to know what was going on. So I don't know whether to keep these or to get rid of them. So your homework for now is to inform me on these books: The Other Side of the Sky, the duology, Study in Drowning by Ava Reed, and Down Comes the Night by Alison Saft. These 4 books, if you have read them and you have opinions on them, please let me know what the I should be doing with them. Otherwise, we are keeping 9 books, and we are definitely unhauling 8 books, which is almost exactly 50%. And depending on what you guys tell me to do with these last 4 books, we might make it to 50% or over. So let me know. If you have read those books, let me know if it's worth it. Let me know which ones to keep, which ones to toss. Thank you for your service. And that is the end, finally. It is 10:45 p.m. now. I started at around 2:30. But after I read that last chunk of books, I did stop for a dinner break, so it wasn't like a full 8 hours. That would be fucking ridiculous. I took like a 3-hour break. At the very least, we have unhauled 8 books, which is not a whole lot for some people, but for me that feels fine. We might get it to 12 by the end of this, but that's all. Thank you for being with me here today. Thank you for helping me. If you have any advice on those 4 books that I was talking about, if you can hear me, if you can read the subtitles, I appreciate you. I hope we're having an amazing summer. I hope you're having a good August so far. I hope you're staying happy and healthy. I love you. Goodbye.